Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to the show. Got my crew with me, Darnell and Tyler. I'm Trey, and we're coming your way with the 43rd edition of the Don't Kill the Messengers podcast. First thing we're about to get into for this week is the NCAA basketball. Recently just had some rankings get dropped out this week. What do you guys think about the rankings?
I think my first initial thought of the rankings is, it's kind of like a duh thought. You have the typical powers at the top. You have Duke, Kentucky, and Kansas at the top of the AP poll. What other three teams are you going to see there, really? There's really nobody else who gets the level of recruits that they do on a year in, year out basis. It's the same level of success year in and year out. So to see those teams at the top, not really surprised. They just always find a way to be there. And then, following up from those top three, you have North Carolina at 6, some Big Ten teams, at 9, you have Wisconsin, Indiana 11, Michigan State 12. So they have some strong presence near the top as well. But, just an initial thought on the rankings. It's kind of like I said, a duh thought. But if there was one surprise, I think Oregon at 5 kind of caught me off guard a little bit. There was big talk. They were a number 2 seed last year in the tournament, made a little bit of a run, and maybe they can build off it. But Oregon's kind of one of these things is not like the other team mixed in this the top 16. When you get to like UCLA, they're kind of the odd one out, if you will.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with what you're thinking on that one. It's pretty much an expected poll. You got the Blue Bloods are topping it and sprinkled all throughout the top 15 of it. With Oregon, just follow up with you, they returned a lot from last year. That's why they're still in the top 5. And everybody knew talent-wise they're a good get to March. It's a different story, and coaching plays more of an effect. But yeah, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, can't argue that. You got the defending champs at 4. Carolina has 6, and then the Big Ten basically filling out the rest of that top 10 to 15 for you. Couple Pac-12 teams in there as well, but I have no issues with it. Solid. Starting in the top 25.
Yeah, and I think I also like the presence of the mid-major schools. Like you have like a Creighton, Rhode Island, St. Mary's, not your typical powerhouse schools. I like to see some of those smaller schools who can actually really play, get some notoriety, even if it is early on and too soon to tell poll and all that stuff. But a lot of times smaller schools, for the longest time, Wichita State was doing it. They were practically running the table in their conference, and they would see the respect for it. And I think that's one thing that the college basketball poll tends to get right, is it shows the love to the smaller school. Now, granted, like in the football polls, that's just a different animal. The smaller schools, when they stack up against the bigger schools, would really not stand a chance. Whereas in basketball, you're more likely to see a smaller school win. Coming to mind, you think George Mason, you think just a bunch of all the other upsets you've seen over the years, where those smaller schools that can actually play just don't tend to get the notoriety. Even though it's the end of the poll, you're looking Creighton 22, Rhode Island 23, St. Mary's 17. Even though they're not household names, I do like the fact that they are getting a lot of notoriety. And the thing is, they got quite a bit of points in the rankings as well. If you look at the ranking system or the point system for the ranking, St. Mary's, being ranked ahead of some of the more traditional powers like Connecticut, Syracuse, Maryland, even. I think it says a lot for these smaller schools that tend to get out of their regular season with only single-digit losses.
Yeah, totally agree with that. College basketball, they're the definition of anyone can win. we've had so many stories of those Cinderella teams making it deep, like Butler, like you said, George Mason, like Wichita State.
Yeah.
This is just parody isn't even the word to describe it. It's just stuff blows up at the end of college basketball season.
Yeah.
All right, now Darnell, everybody knows you're a Michigan State fan. What are you expecting from them this year?
A reprieve from how bad I feel about football. But no, I have decently high hopes. Especially they got to wipe the bad taste away from how they ended last season. But it's a lot to be excited for. They had a big recruiting class come in, 3 big recruits, Josh Langford, Cassius Winston, and Miles Bridges coming in. Wish we could have kept Deontay Davis from that last year. It's a big loss, so they're a little bit undersized, but this is going to be a team that gets up and down the court, scores a lot of points. They'll be very fun to watch, especially the last of the freshmen that I mentioned, Miles Bridges. Like this, he's a one and done candidate, and he's already showing flashes of he's something special. Probably the best freshman I've seen come to us in a while. So I think we're going to have some fun watching this team. It's not going to be your usual defense and kind of Izzo drawn up ridiculous plays that they score off of, and like it'll still be that team-based basketball that he likes to play, but if things break down, he's going to be a guy that you can get the ball to and make something happen.
Yeah, not necessarily being a fan of the team you choose to be a fan of, but I think this is a team Michigan State can actually feel really excited about from a youth standpoint in a long time. I mean, like you said, they're looking at a potential of a couple of guys being one and done here. I think you look at Bridges and Langford, depending what kind of a year Langford has, I think he also has the potential to be one and done. But granted, what D1 player that goes to a big time school doesn't have the potential to be one and done anymore. Mm-hmm. But, when you heard Josh Jackson decide to go to Kansas, what did you think there? Icing on the cake, cherry on top.
Yeah.
Potentially pencil these guys in.
Yeah. If they would have got Josh Jackson, like this would have been one of those teams where I would have been like, Izzo, you have to win a championship with this team. That would have been just too much talent coming in. That would have been one of those Kentucky type teams where you're basically starting. You could start 4 freshmen if you want.
Yeah. And I think one thing I like about this Spartan recruiting class is they stayed at home to do it, and they tend to do that. They had Draymond Green from Saginaw, they had Keith Appling from Detroit, they had Kalen Lucas from Orchard Lake St. Mary's. They tend to stay at home. They find the homegrown talent, and I think the Spartan team has a lot of promise. And like you said, I think this is for the first time in a while, a time they're looking at a team that can win a game off of pure athleticism. Granted, I'm not saying last year's team wasn't good or, the teams with Kalen Lucas wasn't good, but I think this team will have another level of athleticism that they haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, this is probably most athletic team we've had since the post-championship era of 2000. Yeah. This is a team they have a lot of raw talent, and Izzo's a great coach. So if he can get them together and rolling come the end of February, a lot of people are going to be scared to play him.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think one thing Izzo does very well is he does develop the guys he has. I mean, one player that stands out in my mind is Matt Costello from the Michigan State team last year. He had a monster of a senior year, showed promise his junior year, but his sophomore and freshman year, I thought he was going to be lost hope on that Michigan State squad, being a guy that comes off the bench, being a guy that, just kind of got lost in a great basketball program. But he turned it up, got to another level. And I think a lot of that has to do with Tom Izzo. I'd even say Denzel Valentine.
Yeah.
He got to another level in his senior year that you hadn't really seen out of him. So, I mean, if we're talking about, developing these guys, especially this really promising recruiting class, I think for Izzo, it's more of a how soon can you do it as opposed to hope these guys can stick around and do it. Yeah. So as long as Izzo can get it in these guys' heads that, if you develop fast, and I think he has the ability to do that. I think he's really now starting to adapt to the one and done era. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something he kind of struggled with for a little bit. You kind of needed to see guys in his system for 2 or 3 years before you saw the potential. And I think he's starting to realize the one and done route is going to benefit college basketball programs probably a lot better than if you're trying to hope for 4-year guys. And I think Kentucky's proved it. Duke's proved it. I think it's more, Izzo catching up with the time and realizing this is maybe what we need to do to compete at a more serious level.
Yeah, he was basically the last of that guard that, he still did pretty well getting his
I agree.
decently talented group of kids to make a team out of, maybe get one blue chipper out of there every couple of years to put them over the top and get them deep into the playoffs. But yeah, this is that first class where you're just like, wow, he got a couple kids that, may only be here 1-2 years max. So
yeah,
he's getting a different level of talent now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some key players for you guys that you're going to be looking out for this year?
Well, I think we mentioned one of them with Josh Jackson.
Yeah.
The number one small forward. The guy is no question a one and done. We could be talking about him easily a lottery pick. I think we're going to be talking about him as the potential 1 or 2 option moving forward. He could potentially be like the Ben Simmons from last year, just kind of a guy that can do it all, can score, can pass. He is kind of the complete player out there right now. And I don't know too many people that would really, really argue with that.
Yeah, totally agree. I basically already have him penciled in basically as the number 1 draft pick next year.
Yep.
He is that kind of a talent. Coming out of Detroit, the stuff he did in high school was just let him go to the league now. So he's that kind of a talent. Also, like I mentioned earlier, with State, I think you need to look at Miles Bridges. He's going to be a big time player, and then to go with somebody older on the spectrum, I don't like the kid, but of course you got to look at Duke and look at Grayson Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that Grayson Allen. It's just the idea that he's kind of been on the radar for a while, puts up the points, just fills the stat sheets. So I don't disagree with that one. And plus, playing for Duke, you're going to steal a lot of him. A player that's a little, closer to me that I think could have another nice year is Thomas Bryant, the center for Indiana. A lot of people thought he was going to leave last year, but chose to come back. I think we're going to see him take that next step. I'm hoping to maybe catch him out in person a couple of times this year. But he was a promising freshman last year and averaged 11 and 6, well, just under 6. But and he only averaged 22 minutes a game. So imagine what you can do if you can get him closer to that 32-minute mark. Closer to that 30-minute mark. Where a lot of these stud players are playing. Just another guy we could potentially be talking about a little later on in the year. Especially when you're looking at a draft when teams like to build around some younger big guys. I think he could be someone that, can make a really nice addition on a pro squad as as it appears he could potentially leave this year as long as, the stats are there and the development.
Yeah.
Now, who are you guys' favorite to win it all this year?
That's a shot in the dark. But, I think that just boils down to, you look at some of the perennial favorites. You look at a Duke, Kentucky, Kansas. I think Kansas lost, some senior leadership last year. I look mainly at Perry Ellis, a guy that seemed like he was in college forever and was never going to leave, but, he's done. So, putting in Josh Jackson in that lineup kind of makes them a spotlight team, a team that'll get a lot of primetime action. They'll get a lot of ESPN. So, I'll look at them as one of the favorites to move forward this year. Good coach, recruits the talent, has enough guys coming back. I'll probably pick a preseason typically blows at Kansas team.
Basically, just find a 3-sided coin and flip it for the top 3, and that's one of your favorites to win. Kansas, Kentucky, Duke. They traditional ones to be in there, but also 2 out of the 3 are ones that can scare you and drop it early in an early round where they're not supposed to. And one's an outside where they could possibly get found to have some kind of violation. Sorry, Trey, but you coach.
Yeah, and I will say, my answer will change. Just because I'm saying Kansas now, I'm not. That's not a write it in pen. That's definitely write it in pencil.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Any thoughts on the NCAA basketball before we move on?
I think we'll be for another good year. It's like we said, it's unpredictable at all times. But early season stuff, I'm gonna like to see a lot of these, big schools play a lot of the little schools and just kind of see what we have, get a feel for a lot of the teams, see what it looks like their game plans are going to be moving forward. But a lot of good early season tournaments. You think Maui, the Battle for Atlantis is becoming a big one. I think Michigan State's playing in the Battle for Atlantis this year, Darnell. I'm not 100% sure on that, but so a lot of good preseason tournaments. The Puerto Rico tournament usually has a couple lesser basketball programs, but still teams that can make some noise. So those early season tournaments are a lot of fun to watch, and usually some really good talent comes out of those.
Yeah, one of the best things about college basketball is that first couple weeks of the year, because you actually do get to see a lot of marquee matchups from highly ranked teams that are not in the same conference. With that Battle of Atlantis, you got a chance of seeing what I think it's Duke, Kentucky, State, and Arizona are all there. So, you're going to get some good battles early.
All right, up next, we're about to move to NCAA football. First thing we're about to get into is the playoff rankings dropped this week. And, before we even got into the season, we had like a little preseason talk. You guys both mentioned that you could possibly not see a Pac-12 team going into the playoffs. So far, it's looking like that. What did you guys think about the rankings when you first saw it?
In my opinion, the first ranking shows always smokes and mirrors.
Yeah.
It's always make people happy, play your favorites, because it's not going to end up that way. So, Darnell and I had a great Twitter conversation about this. It was short, but it was great. And Tran, we wish you were involved because you texted us about it 2 hours later. And as everybody knows by now, Washington got left out. A lot of people think that's a robbery. A lot of people think it's the committee doing. And even though I agree with those thoughts, look at the last 2 first-time college football playoff polls. The first year, we had 3 SEC teams. The second year, we had 2. And now the third year, we have 2. it's nothing more than the SEC bias. It's nothing more than people still think, and the committee thinks that the SEC is the best conference out there, because in reality, they don't end up taking 3 or 2 SEC teams. They haven't yet, so I don't believe they will again. So really, this is just them taking their chance to show who they actually like before they put in the teams they feel they have to put in.
Yeah, I mean they release it, and I mean probably like most people, I was like, number 1, okay, yep, of course. Number 2, all right. Number 3, yep, you can deal with that one. 4, what? Like A&M over Washington, okay. But like I said, I think it's just, I mean, people, it's still hard not to give the SEC that edge, I guess, because they continue to win the national championship.
Yeah.
I mean, over the last however many years, they've only not had 2 of them. So it's just they're going to keep getting that edge until other schools start stepping up and beating them. But also, like me and Ty were talking about, but Washington still has their fate in their hands because they have a championship game. A&M has a loss, so if Washington keeps winning, there's no way they're going to keep an undefeated Pac-12 team out that's playing as well as Washington is. It may not be the best conference, but they're not terrible. Like, there's good teams in there. Some teams have underperformed off of what was expected.
Yeah.
Stanford's not where everybody thought they would be. Oregon's not where people thought they would be.
USC never is.
Yeah, USC just, after Pete Carroll left, they just can't seem to find their way. But I'm not outraged by it. If it was up to me, yes, I would have Washington there at that 4 spot. But it's the first one, and these will come out every week, and put it out every week so people like us can talk and argue about it, complain about it. Say it's the NCAA. Especially with football, they're very smart. They hold this playoff ranking until middle of the season, where you might get into a little lull, and then let's inject a talking point in there. Let's throw these college football rankings out there and leave it for the people to complain about.
Yeah, the other thing I think that's brilliant about the rankings is, and like I said, the first ranking is all smoke and mirrors. It's nothing, like you said, it's nothing more than a talking point. And I think it's almost like they purposefully hold the team out so the talking is elevated. And the point I've been making to everybody is, show me one instance where the College Football Playoff Committee has not honored a conference champion. There isn't one. So everybody going, how could they put Texas A&M there? It's like, guys, this is the first ranking. It's nothing more than that. Until they put in a team from a conference that is not a conference champion, I have no reason to think otherwise. So really, as long as Washington wins, everybody has to believe, based off of history, that they have to be in. And like Darnell said, why would you keep an undefeated conference champion out? I don't care if you lose to the number 1 team in the country. I don't care if you lose to the last team in the country. A undefeated conference champion deserves to be in. I even believe a 1-loss conference champion deserves to be in. The only problem I could potentially see in the future is, what if we have 5 undefeated conference champions or 5 1-loss conference champions? Like, what happens if all these teams have the same record? Then they go to things like strength of schedule or whatever they claim to go by. But
Ty, what about that Western Michigan, man?
Hey, I'll tell you what. Row the boat. Row that boat. I'll take PJ. Honestly, I think PJ Fleck is setting himself up for a bigger job.
Oh yeah,
he's phenomenal. Like he gets those players to believe, and he has Western on a path they've not been on. They're in line for a New Year's Day 6 bowl. Western Michigan. What have you ever thought? Seriously, like, we're looking at teams and well, I guess we're looking at a team that has had, MAC success, has been to MAC championships, but we're talking Western on a national level that we've never seen them before. I think Western Michigan's, I'd love to cheer for them on New Year's Day. I would love to. I think it'd be great.
Oh yeah, I think that's one a Wolverine fan and Spartan fan can agree with.
Yeah.
We can cheer for Western. I mean,
Yeah.
I love seeing Twitter blowing up a couple nights ago just with how the numbers they were putting up.
Yeah.
That receiver that they have is Corey Davis is, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I think what that boils down to, and I think you'd agree, PJ Fleck's just a coach that's better than the MAC.
Yeah.
The thing is he's now been there long enough to really implement what he wants to do. And, if you've ever seen a Western Michigan football game on TV, they always show the PJ Fleck pregame speech. If you've not seen one, go watch one. I want to play for that guy, and I don't even play football. I feel like he could get me pumped over anything.
Yeah, he's just on another level in that conference. This is like back when Brian Kelly was coaching Grand Valley and Division II. It was just like this is not fair.
Yeah, I mean, how many guys go from Grand Valley to Notre Dame in a few years?
Yeah,
not many. And I think PJ Fleck could be on pace to take that next step and get into a Power 5. Now, granted, it could be one of the smaller schools in the Power 5, but you have to take smaller steps to take the big steps. So I think PJ Fleck's setting himself up for something big. Getting to a New Year's Day 6 game, that's huge. Potentially win it. That really sets up the rest of his career.
All right, both your squads duked it out last week. What were you guys' thoughts on that Michigan State game?
Let me go first so you can gloat.
Oh, okay. Well, there may not be as much gloating as you think, so.
All right. I mean, the outcome happened that most people thought as far as who would win. Definitely it was a surprise at how the game went.
Yeah.
As far as the players go, they fought. I don't have too many issues with it. But as far as the outcome, I actually am a little bit mad. Not saying that we would have won, but I have to put a lot of blame on the coaching staff right now. And like you guys know, I'm pretty supportive of Coach Antonio, but decision number one, starting Tyler O'Connor over Brian Lewerke. I know Lewerke ended up breaking his leg; he's out for the year. Sad to hear.
Which is kind of a double whammy for Michigan State right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how you have a quarterback that's been playing pretty well. You've committed to him for a couple games, and you start. I know it's a big game against your rival, and I guess that was the reason for starting the senior quarterback. But he's just not as good as Lord. And I mean, that first drive, they were gangbusters. It was all LJ Scott basically running over him, and he was the star of that game on Michigan State's side, of course. But once they started keying on him a little bit and putting more in the box, O'Connor couldn't push him back off when it was time to pass the football. Comes late in the third quarter, you put Lewerke in, the offense starts moving again, and I'm looking, I'm just like, if you would have had him in the whole time, he seems to have a better grasp of the offense, more of a connection with the receivers. I think you wouldn't have had to try to play and do all these wacky things to try to keep an edge. I think they would have been a game they could have played a regular game plan. And then issue number two, some of the play calls, like 4 straight runs at the 2-yard line. I know LJ Scott had been doing well, but you throw a play action in there. They're surrounding the guy. You probably could have got somebody wide open in the end zone. And then not taking field goals when you could get them. The weird 2-point conversion at the end of the game. I mean, it was over anyway, so no harm, no foul on it. But it's just like, that was just, I was so disappointed in the coaching that game.
Yeah, I'm not saying I know exactly why that 2-point conversion happened, but to an extent, I think, and this isn't something I'm bragging about because honestly I could care less about it, but I think Harbaugh got to D'Antonio's head at the end of that game. Harbaugh constantly going for it, constantly not necessarily trying to run up the score, but trying to never back down. I think that forced D'Antonio into that last minute 2-point conversion because nobody could understand why it was even happening. And then it just backfired in the whole thing. But it was a very odd moment, knowing you didn't need it and then knowing it wouldn't make a difference with 1 second on the clock. Because even if you run an onside kick and recover it, you have to return and you can't even return an onside kick. Yeah. So touch the ball, that's your second.
Yeah.
That runs off the clock. So it was kind of like even you said, it was a very odd coaching decision. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I guess in terms of Michigan, the result was what we needed. The result puts us number 3 in the college football playoff. As the saying goes, it doesn't have to be pretty, but you have to win. A win's a win. And I think that's kind of what Michigan fans are walking away with. The first half went to plan, I think, for Michigan fans. The first drive by Michigan State, you just kind of shake your head and say, all right, well, let's just not let that happen again. I mean, that kind of came out of nowhere from Michigan State as of late, who had kind of struggled to do everything. So that was kind of a surprise drive, and I think that kind of pumped up Michigan State for the rest of the game. And I would even argue that was potentially one of I think Michigan State's best defensive game of the year. Despite letting up 32, I still think they played very well. Offensively, I think, like you said, Darnell, it came down more to play calling than execution. Because I think Michigan State played actually their first, if not second best game of the year. You can argue that Notre Dame game. They played very well offensively against Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. But, I still think that was a 1 or 2 game for Michigan State for sure. But, like I said, first half went Michigan's way. They kind of did everything they needed to offensively, defensively, had a 17-point lead going into the half. And then the second half happened, and the third quarter was a stalemate. Nobody scored. To me, that was just Michigan, just their defense being their defense, and their offense kind of struggled a little there in the second half. I mean, Wilton Speight threw an interception on a wheel route to the running back that he had no business throwing. He, 1, underthrew him, and 2, threw a jump ball to a running back. Just really a very poor decision that State intercepted and returned quite a ways. And I think that led to a 4-and-out, a 4th down that they didn't convert on, which Michigan kind of lucked out on, because that could have equaled 7 the other way. But I mean, once Lewerke got in, I don't know if Michigan they got soft coverage and started giving up yards. And then it got to the point where it looked like their defense wasn't being aggressive anymore, and they were just holding on. And it kind of got nerve-wracking with 5 or 6 minutes left. And you're just wondering, is it going to be a collapse? Are they going to hold on? And I think both fan bases were kind of feeling this very odd tension at the end, knowing it shouldn't even be there. But for some reason, both teams are in a position to win this game. And you almost didn't know what was going to happen. And it, like I said, for me, it was just a very odd feeling. But I'll tell you, when the first quarter got over with, I said, I told, my brother, I was like, Michigan needs to score the ball because Michigan State's possessing it the way they need to. And Michigan scored on their first possession. They had to answer Michigan State there. But, only 1 possession from Michigan in the first quarter had me a little worried early, because it's one thing I've told you, Darnell. Michigan State wins games by possessing the ball. They don't do anything too flashy. They don't do anything that blows you out of the water. They just score and possess the ball. So, I thought, Michigan could potentially need to make the most of what they would get. But like I said, the second quarter, they really did take advantage of what they had with the ball, and the defense settled in and played, what Michigan defense is expected to be playing right now with under Don Brown. But, I guess one highlight for me or something I take away is, Jabril Peppers kind of had a complete all-around game. Scored an offensive touchdown, played well defensively, made some big tackles, got that 2-point conversion at the end. He just has a nose for the football. He was kind of like Michigan's leadership in a lot of ways on both sides of the ball. Made some big plays on both sides, and he's setting himself up to at least make a trip to New York. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman, but being able to make a trip there is going to be a big positive for him. So I liked the way he played. I liked the way our defense played for 3 quarters. Lewerke chewed him up a little at the end there. And, I'll agree with you, Darnell. Lewerke breaking his leg, I think, is the worst news for Michigan State, because the guy you're going to move forward with, you can't even give him the rest of the season, and your team's already way out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's very unfortunate for Michigan State, and I feel for them there, because he's basically just losing time. That's basically what he's doing right now. He's losing game experience. But if I were Michigan State, I would have rolled with him from minute 1. Success or failure, I would have rolled with him being the future guy next year.
Yeah, totally agree. So like I said, I think I had a big issue with that. Soon as I saw Connor walking out with the starting offense, I was like, what are we doing? I don't like it. Even with the touchdown, I was like, I just don't get it.
Well, and like you said, that drive was all LJ Scott. I mean, O'Connor for some reason really struggles to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, Pee Wee struggles to throw the ball.
He doesn't make decisions. I think it feels like he's in his own head every play.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, but I think it's an NFL guy. They say he always wants to make the right decision. He wants to make the right decision so bad that he misses the obvious play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I said, it was just kudos to Michigan. They did what they needed to do. They won the game. Peppers was he had a highlight reel game for himself. I give him a lot of credit. He was everywhere. He was blowing people up. He was running the ball. The last play. This is going to be a memorable one. Like I said, I think a lot of coaching issues, especially in the red zone, where they had 3 red zone trips where they didn't get points. Just, I think they left a lot on the field and had missed a big chance to make that game special on state side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, you got anything else to add, Ty?
No, I mean, I was basically just gonna add, like Darnell said, Michigan did what they needed to do, and at this point in the season, Michigan just needs to be undefeated, meeting Ohio State. Basically, it would be nice for Ohio State to get one more loss, because if Michigan plays them undefeated, they basically have nothing to worry about with the result of that game. They'd be in the Big Ten championship. But I'm not going to expect Ohio State to lose before they meet Michigan. So that just makes that game very traditional, if you will. Very, very Woody and Bo-esque. Very, just everything's on the line for both teams there. But, I feel, moving forward, as much as I don't want to talk this way, Michigan setting themselves up for a consolation Rose Bowl. And as much as I would love to see them in the college football playoff, because there's a little more pride there, that's a shot at the national championship. I think a Rose Bowl in Harbaugh's second year will be nothing to frown at. So as much as I don't want to start talking consolation, I think it's going to be okay for Michigan fans to remember that could potentially be the at worst situation for us. So I'm still going to be hoping for the playoff. I'm going to hope for, a shot at the Big Ten title. So I'm going to hope for at least one more Ohio State loss. I'm really pulling for Nebraska this week. Because like I said, as long as Michigan can take care of business and get to Ohio State undefeated, if Ohio State loses one more, Michigan would own the tiebreaker with Penn State if they run the table. So, just a lot of what ifs still to go around, but Michigan has set themselves up for a really good year, despite a lot of outcomes that could potentially happen.
All right, now next we're about to talk about the Cornhuskers. They had a pretty tough week last week against Wisconsin. They held their own even though they did lose. Did you guys think that they showed that they were for real last week?
On the road at Wisconsin, I think they played well enough to win the game. They got into overtime. They had that fourth quarter magic they seem to have. Just they're always behind in the fourth quarter, and they find a way to either take the lead, tie it up, whatever they need to do. But I think Camp Randall's a very tough place to play. Ask anyone who's played there. Ask anybody in the Big Ten that travels there. That's a tough place to go and try and win a football game. So for Nebraska to go there and lose, it's like, yeah, that's a tough loss to take, especially at this point in the year. But you're playing a good Wisconsin team, a team that we all said we think's better than 2 losses. It's just the fact that look at who their 2 losses came against. But I think that was the win Wisconsin needed, and the loss with Nebraska needed to avoid.
Yeah, I mean they definitely showed that they weren't undeserving of their record. They took Wisconsin to overtime. That was, like Ty mentioned, they were playing a team that we thought was way better than what their record shows. They lost good games against 2 teams in the top 5 of the playoff rankings even. So
6.
Top 6. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, Nebraska, they showed they're a tough team. They're going to be a tough out for anybody that plays them. They just they came up against a team that like 2 of us felt is just a little bit better of a team.
Hey, there's hope. There's always hope.
Yeah. So I mean, it was good that they stayed in it, even with Tommy Armstrong not really having the greatest of a game. 2 picks, only threw for 153 yards. But they held Wisconsin's quarterbacks pretty low as well. Hornibrook was out for a little bit. He got banged up, but came back. But between him and Houston, they only threw for 114 yards. So I mean, this was one of those old school Big Ten battles where like the ground game ruled all. I mean, Nebraska rushed for 152, Wisconsin for 223 altogether. Like that, and the both defenses played great.
Absolutely.
I gotta say that.
Absolutely.
Both
forcing turnovers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They both showed where their strength was, and it was on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, completely agree there. I mean, in the fourth quarter, it seemed like for a while neither team was doing anything as both sides were forcing turnovers. I mean, the same guy, I think it was for Nebraska, the same guy made 2 picks in 2 consecutive defensive possessions.
Yeah.
I think both of those teams are going to be the classic never go away team, always hanging around, find a way to stay in it. But unfortunately, one of them is going to be, well, not really unfortunately, but for one of the schools, unfortunately, one of them has to represent the East or the West for the Big Ten, and both, like, they kind of deserve it. So they'll fight it out. Wisconsin helped themselves out by winning that game, getting a game back. Now they just have to hope Nebraska loses once more. And I think they're hoping to see that this week.
Yep.
All right, now we got a big game this week to watch between Alabama and LSU, one of my favorite rivalries in the NCAA. What are you guys' thoughts on this matchup for this upcoming week?
mean, as always, I think it's going to be a good, hard-fought game, especially LSU seems to have found an offense now. And the defense has never left. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a good game. But I mean, I just think Alabama has a little bit too much for them, so they pull away late. But definitely, disappointment viewing.
Yeah, it seems like whenever you put a challenge in front of Alabama, they rise to it and then some. You threw Tennessee at them, and they kind of scoffed and laughed and had fun on the field. Then you throw Texas A&M at them, and they kind of pull the same gig. So it seems like Alabama is the team that has all the answers, has the cheat sheet, if you will. They never fail the test. So I'm not expecting anything different. So I'm going to expect the defense to play big like they have all year, and I'm going to expect Jalen Hurts to have another great defining moment where a lot of people say, could this be the time he slips up? And he goes out and just excels. He's one player I've been very impressed with this year, and I think everybody's been impressed with him because he was on nobody's radar week one, Ethan. And I mean, training camp, I don't even know if many people were looking at him to be the guy to lead this team as the number one team in the country, 8-0. I think if you want to talk about surprise players this year in college football, I think you have to look at Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think he's made his way into some people's Heisman ballots. I mean, he had 2 straight games now with like 100 yards passing and rushing.
Yeah, something like that. So. Yeah, I mean, but the only unfortunate thing is Lamar Jackson plays the same position.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably get that Peppers type treatment where he might get himself a trip to New York. He may not win, but
Yeah.
All right, guys. You guys ready for the pick'ems?
I had to make up some ground, so yes.
All right, we got Darnell. It's number 1 with 23 out of 33, and me and Ty, we are tied with 21 out of 33. First game we're about to get into is Alabama versus LSU. Bama, they have a minus 7.5 point lead for the spread. Who do you guys got?
Give me Alabama. I can't spend my time talking them up to not pick them.
All right.
Yeah, same here. I basically just alluded to it. I think Alabama wins it pulling away late. I just think they're not a team that Fournette can beat down. It's probably actually a game where Alabama's probably going to force LSU to beat them through the air. I think they're going to stack up and, keep that brick wall of a D line that they have set and keep them linebackers filling gaps too. So yeah, I got Alabama winning this one. Let's say 28-18.
All
yeah,
right.
just real quick for my score, I have a similar score. I have actually 28-16.
Okay. Sorry, Derek, but roll damn Tide. I'm going to go with Alabama this one, too. I think they're going to do a good job of shutting down Fournette like they have been doing, like they did last year. Had pretty great defense against them. So I think, LSU's going to try to beat them through the air, but I don't think they will. Do got this being a good game. I do have Alabama winning 23-13. Up next, we have Oklahoma State versus Kansas State. Kansas State, they have a -3 lead for spread. Who you guys got?
Yeah, this seems like a very odd game for us to be picking. Just because, granted, we haven't talked about either of these teams at all this year. And, Oklahoma State has at times put up a ton of points, and they've also lost to Central Michigan. So what do you do with them? It's kind of tough to tell which team's going to show up here. But
had to throw in some hard ones, guys.
Yeah, but it's also kind of weird because Kansas State, nobody's really talked about them at all this year. But they always seem, quietly be taking care of some business, and So this one really hard for me to pick. But I'll take Oklahoma State on this one. I think they can do it offensively. Kansas State, I think, is just the definition of don't be flashy, just do your job. Coach Snyder knows what he's doing in Manhattan. He kind of owns that town. So, but I'll still go Oklahoma State. I'll take them 35-20.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going with Sooners here too. But yeah,
Cowboys.
The Cowboys. Yeah.
Oh, Cowboys. Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Thinking wrong, Oklahoma here. Yeah.
That's what we talk about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Going with the Cowboys here. The offense, I think, is just going to be a little too potent for the Wildcats. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Still, I think it'll be a pretty decently high scoring affair. When you score quickly, usually your defense is on the field a lot, so they'll probably give up a lot. So I will go with the Cowboys 31-24.
Is that a question?
Yeah, it is.
All right, yeah. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State on this one as well. I just think they're a better team, even though they're going to be playing away on this one. I think they're going to pass it out in the air, be able to be successful with it. So I have Oklahoma State winning this one 31-24. I'm going to go with Darnell. No question, no. That's a prediction. All right, up next we have some Big Ten teams clashing it out. We have Wisconsin versus Northwestern. Wisconsin, they have a -6.5 lead for the spread on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna tend to go with Wisconsin here, coming off a big win last week. Now, granted, Northwestern's coming off a really good performance against Ohio State on the road. They're carrying some momentum with them right now. Fun to watch. I love Coach Fitzpatrick. I think he does a phenomenal job with Northwestern in that team. Always gets them pumped up. When what looked like they were going to have a lost season at the beginning of the year, they really saved themselves. And I think a lot of that has to be said for Fitzpatrick and the way he gets his team prepared every week. But I'm going to go with Wisconsin. I think they've showed enough against the big time teams to basically forced me to pick them, losing by one possession to Ohio State and Michigan and then beating Nebraska. So I'm going to go Wisconsin here in a closer game than a lot of people might think. I'm actually going to go 28-21.
All right.
Yeah, I actually find this one a little tricky too, because it's two teams that have the potential to be letdowns because of the week before, but on the other hand, it has the potential for them to be kind of hyped up and excited. Wisconsin got a big win over the team they're looking up to on their side of the conference. Northwestern played a very good game against one of the best teams in the country. So I'm just wondering if one of these teams comes in a little more relaxed, Wisconsin, because they're going from playing Nebraska to playing a 4-4 Northwestern, or Northwestern kind of blowing their load against Ohio State. But I will stick with the Badgers. I just think they have a little too much talent. Kind of with Ty, I think it might be a little bit closer than people expect. So I will go with Wisconsin 24-17.
All right. I'm going to go Wisconsin as well. I think they're going to be physical, try to pound the ball and everything against Northwestern. Just like you guys, too, I do believe that this game is going to be closer than a lot of people think as well. So I have Wisconsin winning 24-20. And then up next. Oh, okay. Ooh.
Yeah, real quick. One player to look out for is the wide receiver for Northwestern. I can't remember his name, but
Hill or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember, but smaller guy.
He's leading the conference or lead.
Yeah.
Is it Carr?
Carr. That's
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, look out for him. Great player. He's been killing it this year. I think he could potentially be a big difference maker if Northwestern wins the game.
Okay.
He's like the second coming of Wes Welker.
All right. Up next, we have Iowa versus Penn State. Penn State, they have a -7.5 point lead for the spread in this one, in this game. So, what are you guys thinking about this matchup?
Once again, another interesting one. Penn State a very quiet 6-2. Iowa's really had to pick it up to be 5-3. So once again, Iowa's playing some better football on the road. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think this game could show whether Penn State can live up to that 6-2 record or not. If Iowa wins this game, it's going to be from their run game and their defense. Their passing game hasn't really been there much this year, so their run game's been doing it for them a little bit lately. So at Penn State, I think I'm going to go with the home team. I think they really know what they have at stake in the Big Ten East and want to keep that alive. So I'm going to go with Penn State here. Once again, a pretty close game, not very high scoring. So I'm going to go 27-24.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going Penn State as well. Just they've been playing a lot better football than me. Iowa's 5-3. They haven't played quite the schedule Penn State has, and Iowa's kind of underperforming to what we expected from them off of what they did last year. I don't see him stopping Barkley, so I think Penn State's able to just kind of control the game, pull this one out. I think they win kind of comfortably, so I'm going with Penn State 31-21.
All right. I'm going to go with Penn State as well. For this one, like you said, Darnell Barkley has been a beast. 147 attempts with 888 yards and 10 touchdowns. So I think he's going to get a lot of carries this game and help lead Penn State to victory. Do have this one being very close as well. So I'm going to go with Penn State 24-20. And last but not least, Nebraska versus The Ohio State University. Ohio State, they have a -17 point lead for the spread. What are you guys thinking?
I really want to pick Nebraska. I will be cheering for Nebraska. I will pray for Nebraska. I will do whatever for
you got to make ground, Ty. Go for it again. Go for Nebraska, man.
Pickle. Okay, well, let's think logically here.
JT, you pick opposite. If you don't pick opposite, then you're right.
That's true. That is true. JT Barrett is going to be at home. He's going to be comfortable. I think, I just think Ohio State has a better coach. I think Ohio State has a better, quarterback, better defense. But I do think there's always one upset we talk about every year. And I think this could potentially be the one that puts Ohio State out of the picture. And the reason I say that is because I think Nebraska's defense played a great game last week on the road. I think Nebraska's defense is able to force turnovers and stop offenses. The only issue with Nebraska I have is Tommy Armstrong. I'm not sold on him.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sold on him one bit. He always seems to have okay numbers, but he's always some stupid 12 for 40 or 12 for 36.
Yeah.
Like his percentage is terrible, but they find a way to be in every game, and they find a way to they just find a way to do it. But as I recall, Ohio State lost a big one at home at night last year. I like to say history repeats itself. Just because Darnell begged me to do it, I'm going to pick Nebraska.
Begged you to do
I'm gonna pick against Ohio State every time from here on out because I have faith in my Michigan team.
All right.
So
Will it happen?
yeah. So I'm gonna go Nebraska. Jeez. 21-18.
All right.
Low scoring game here. Okay.
Honestly, I think it would have to be if Nebraska wants a shot.
So I'm about to go against everything Ty said he wants to happen.
You're going to extend your lead.
I think Nebraska suffers that big letdown that I was talking about earlier. They played a heck of a game against Wisconsin, took it to OT, and then came up short. Yes, they're going to be angry, but I don't think they muster enough to do that again against Ohio State. I think they get boat raced, actually. So I'm going with Ohio State here, 41-21.
Wow.
Let me put it this way. I won't be surprised if that happens. This is a very biased pick. And I'm okay to admit that. I am very okay to admit that.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go with Ohio State on this one as well. I just think overall they're just a better talented team. And plus they're going to be playing at home too. I think they're going to be really comfortable playing, in their environment. But I am a little bit nervous about Ohio State. I have not really been impressed how they've been playing the last couple of weeks. They've been having some close games. So I do think this one is going to be closer than a lot of people will think. I'm going to go with Ohio State 24-20. All right, guys. Any other thoughts for NCAA football before we move on?
Glad to know I'll have the lead next weekend still.
Oh, man. All right.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, no, you actually.
Well, yeah, you really can.
I'll still be about one at least.
You will.
Hey, I'll shave some points from down the road, Ty, so don't worry. I got you back, man.
I can see what the total is from week to week. You know that.
Hey, I'll stop sending them out.
I think Tran's going back on the record and saying we picked some teams we didn't.
I still got them saved, man, on my phone. So, yeah, I'll do that for you, Ty.
Oh, we're losing you.
Can you guys hear me?
I heard something.
Okay, up next, we're about to get into is the NFL. This came out yesterday, I believe, with Andre Johnson. He's going to be retiring. What are you guys' thoughts on that when you first heard it?
It's a surprise, I guess. I mean, you weren't expecting to hear that he was going to walk away. It's been a weird year with him and Arian Foster both calling in mid-season.
Yeah, that is correct.
Not something you usually see where people call it a year before it's over. But I mean, great receiver, one of the all-time greats. Too bad he spent most of his career with a bad team, so didn't get to have much postseason success. But I mean,
same with Calvin, man.
Yeah, but I mean, definitely a receiver where his numbers will probably get him into the Hall.
Yeah, once again, solid career. I think you hit that very well. Just the numbers are there for him. He had the ability to go up and get it. He had the ability to run after the catch. He was a complete receiver. Physically, mentally, he ran good routes, had great hands. He did everything you wanted in a wide receiver. He could block. We were talking about it a little bit before we got on. Andre Johnson moments. What's your favorite Andre Johnson moment? And I have to go to the Cortland Finnegan fight because nothing is better than watching two people who absolutely hate each other fight. It's one reason I like hockey so much. But, just that fight, I think, encompassed a lot about the passion that Andre Johnson actually had for the game. And I don't think a lot of people got to see that. I think if you ever heard him talk about his career, just the way you watched him play the game, he played like he cared. He played like he had a lot of passion. Always wanted the ball, always willing to go get it. Wasn't scared to back down to anybody. Like Darnell said, it was kind of a surprise that it happened when it did. I mean, I think it's been obvious for a few years now he's been fading out. And now that he's not really playing at all, calling it quits is probably his best option before he suffers some big injury or something like that. It's hard to see people you watch you watch growing up, and hard to see people that are actually really good not have a lot of success and call it. But I think it's a good time for him to fought some injuries in his career, but nothing crazy serious. No, he's not. Who knows if he's going to be one of the guys battling CTE or anything like that. But solid career. Another good one coming to a close.
All right, guys. Any thoughts on him?
Wish him well.
Yeah.
Same here. Up next, we're about to get into Cam Newton. It's not so obvious. He's been taking some hits throughout his career. This past weekend, he was talking about his frustrations and just going to Roger Goodell to talk about it. What do you guys think about that? Was it the right move or what?
I mean, I'm not mad at him for it. He's thinking about his own safety and his career. I mean, there's always been that, like, I see it for both sides. Mobile quarterbacks seem to be allowed to take a lot bigger hits than your traditional pocket passers. But like I'm fine with it if they're outside of the pocket and they are actually a runner. But a lot of the hits that Cam is taking these days is when he's behind center, like dropping back for a pass. And just because he's a big guy and he can take some hits, that doesn't mean you can allow open season on him. So I'm definitely behind him. And I mean, the video is there. Like, he's taking hits that anybody else would. Like, if it was Tom Brady taking some of the hits he took, some people would be suspended. That's about the only thing I can say about it. So, I had no issues with him. Like, he's earned his stature in the league. This isn't like some hotshot rookie or something trying to say something. This is a guy that's been around for a while. He's been the lead quarterback for a while. He was in the Super Bowl last year. MVP. So, he's one of the league's faces. So I think he has the right to go to the commissioner and say, hey, why am I not getting the same treatment that a Tom Brady or a Ben Roethlisberger would get taking a hit?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he has the right to go to Roger Goodell, and even at that point, just probably going to Goodell and asking why aren't the officials doing their job, because basically they're not. I understand, like, it's an official's job to protect a quarterback, but I also think there's a difference between protecting a quarterback and blatantly watch a guy get beat up and not do anything about it. Because it's one thing to call a low hit, it's another to not call all these hits to the head. The only thing I think I fear for Cam Newton at this point is him going to Goodell. Either A, gets him this quote unquote tattletale reputation, or second, other players start to say he's soft. You're going to go to Goodell, talk to him, and then hit him even harder. Like, I hope that doesn't happen, because I think Cam Newton is a very, respectable guy. I think he plays the game the right way, and he just wants other people to play it the right way too, and I don't think you can blame him for that. I think he can have great success in the league, can have a fantastic career. I think it's just the idea that he's just getting fed up, and like I said, I don't think we can blame him for that. It's just the idea that I just hope other players don't view this as a tattletale mentality, because in reality, he's just trying to stay healthy. If he keeps getting hit in the head like this, he'll be retiring in 3 to 5 years, when he should easily have another 10 to 12 in the league. Granted, he may have to lose the run game a little bit, but he should still have at least another 10 years in the league. He's good. He can throw the ball well enough.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think I said a couple of weeks ago that I'm really concerned about his health, since he just keeps getting like some terrible hits, especially like the one that comes to my mind was that Denver game when he was slow to get up after that one hit. So definitely I don't mind him doing it. I understand too, Ty, with the whole tattletale issue and everything like that. But end of the day, your health is what matters most. So if that's what he wants to do, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yep.
All right, guys. Now we are basically halfway through the NFL season right now. Just looking at the season so far, who's your MVP so far?
He doesn't play on that great of a team, but I guess the name that's coming to me is Drew Brees. He's playing like he's in the middle of his career right now. It seems like he's good for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns every week. I think he's a candidate, or maybe a Matt Ryan, or somebody that we spoke of last week, but I'll let Ty take it since I figure he'll probably throw his name in that.
Matthew Stafford, baby. but in reality, I would agree with the Matt Ryan pick right now. He's leading the league in passing yards at over 2,600, almost 200 more than Kirk Cousins, and just under 300 of the player you also mentioned, Drew Brees. I think Matt Ryan's having a phenomenal year. If he can keep this up, he definitely has himself right at the peak of that discussion. And I almost feel like it's easier for a quarterback to win an MVP than it is for any other position. Yeah, but if we want to look, if we want to, throw another name in there that may not be a wide receiver, if he keeps it up, maybe scores a few more touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking maybe an Ezekiel Elliott. I think he needs to do a little bit more than he. Yeah, I think he needs to be doing a little more than he currently is. But he's having a phenomenal year. I think he has Rookie of the Year kind of locked up.
For sure. Him or his teammate.
Yeah. That is true. I think they'll be two of the front run. Well, probably the 2 front runner. But, right now, I like Matt Ryan. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. He's having another great game tonight. I can pull up his stats right here. He's 20 for 28 for 306 and 2 touchdowns. So I think he's having a phenomenal year. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear his name at the end of the season.
Yeah. All right, guys. So far, what's your biggest surprise so far this year into the season?
The Dallas Cowboys. I know they're my team that I root for and follow, but I don't think anybody expected them to only have 1 loss and be one of the considered by most one of the top 5 teams in the NFL, especially without their traditional starting quarterback and Tony Romo, and having to throw a rookie under center and having a rookie running back and having the defense, which everybody thought would be god awful. I think they are my biggest surprise.
For me, I can get that. But, just for me, make it real quick, I say Minnesota. I touched on it a little while back, but for them to lose their quarterback, a beast in Adrian Peterson, and still have the record that they have, for me, I'm pretty shocked by that too. But definitely Cowboys too, Darnell. They've been doing their thing with situations that they even have since they lost Romo. and whatnot. So, what were you going to say, Ty?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Cowboys are 1A in that discussion. But I'll.
You there, Ty?
We're going to look at Trevor Siemian.
We can hear. I can hear you now.
You good?
Yeah. Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna for of trying to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm gonna go ahead and say first year starting quarterbacks. We have Trevor Siemian in Denver. He's 6-2. We have, like I said, Dak Prescott 6-1. You could even talk about Carson Wentz. The Eagles are 4-3. I mean, he had them at 4-0, but I mean, I don't think anybody saw him doing that. Or he had them at 3-0, one of the two. But I think he's done pretty well for a rookie quarterback. And then you could say Brock Osweiler's kind of been a little bit of the opposite, despite being 5-3. He's not been very impressive for $72 million. But, he has that team at 5-3, so he's winning football games. And I think that's what you pay a quarterback to do, not necessarily throw for 500 yards every game. So, I think first-year quarterbacks have been doing really well this year. Very, very impressive. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple more first-year quarterbacks get a shot before the end of the year. You could even talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett for the Patriots for the first few games. So, I mean, for first-year quarterbacks have fared pretty well this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. All right, guys. Last but not least, Darnell, you kind of brought it up a little bit last week. We were talking about the overtime situation last week. Also had a couple of overtimes. Could have had a couple of ties this week as well. So, but you brought up why the NFL ratings are so low. If you guys could elaborate on that more, just why do you think they're so low? And think a key reason is because of Colin Kaepernick, or you think it goes beyond further than
that? I wouldn't even put Kaepernick in my top 10 on the list of why ratings are down. I think if I had to break it down into a couple big things, one is just kind of oversaturation. College football has part to do with it, but I mean, we have football. When you get to this time of year, you have it basically 6-7 days of the week.
Yeah.
We had Western Michigan play Tuesday. I'm not sure if there was a college game on last night, but you got Thursday night football. You usually have a Friday night college football game. You have college football Saturday. You have NFL Sunday. You have Monday night football. So, I mean, every day of the week you have a game to look at. So, I think that's part of it. With the millennial generation that are quickly becoming adults and head of households, there's not as much cable packages being bought. So that cuts down on TV ratings. So if you want to watch a game, you got to go to a bar, or you got to use somebody else's cable login so you can use ESPN Go or whatever it's called. So, I mean, between cord cutters, saturation, social media, like the NFL streaming games on Twitter, so I don't know how they use that for rating. And I just think it's just we're getting to a new time where they're going to have to find better ways to keep that medium out. Just traditional sitting in front of your TV and watching a game. I don't think it'll ever go away, but it's not as big as it was. I mean, there's other things people can do. We're in another kind of golden age of actual television shows. I mean, just think of over how many shows over the last 5 or 6 years that people are already calling like great TV shows of all time. You got Mad Men, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones.
The Walking Dead's on Sunday nights during Sunday Night Football.
And it's beaten Sunday Night Football continually for the last few years.
Well, and what are your friends talking about Sunday morning? Are they talking about Walking Dead, or Monday morning? Are they talking about The Walking Dead, or are they talking about what happened in Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, and
they're talking about The Walking Dead.
And the other show I mentioned, it's on HBO even, but Game of Thrones is also a Sunday night show.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. I didn't know that, but yeah, I know Game of Thrones is huge.
Yeah, so I just think there's lots of factors to it, and I mean it's just kind of an ebb and flow type deal. People are getting more into other sports again now. Look at the numbers the World Series did. Look at the numbers the presidential debates did. Look at the numbers that the NBA finals did in this past year. Just people's interests are expanding too. I think we're getting away from being a football only sports culture. Like the Super Bowl will always be huge, but I mean, people aren't just going to tune in for every single game. And finally, I don't think fantasy football is as big as it has been anymore. You have your diehard fans that still do it every year, but I think all of those websites aren't getting the traffic that they usually get for fantasy football anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would not disagree there, and I agree with your assessment that there's factors to pinpoint it. And I would also argue, for the last 3 weeks, there's been a greater sports story than anybody's probably really been able to comprehend. I mean, we just had a 108-year drought end with the Chicago Cubs. I mean, and I'll talk about them at the end of the show when, Trey asks if we have anything else to talk about, because I think that deserves to be talked about. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys caught Game 7, but that was probably the best I've ever watched in my life. That was phenomenal. It had absolutely everything you'd want in a baseball game. It had home runs. It had botched plays that turned huge. It had a rain delay, extra innings. I mean, I honestly wanted that game to go as long as it could. Mm-hmm. But when you have a team like the Cubs, who are potentially the biggest fan base in America, I mean, they are now, #join the bandwagon.
I was going to say everybody was a Cubs fan
now. Yeah,
outside of Cleveland and one Trayon Samuel.
Yeah.
But I would even argue they're one of the top 5 fan bases in America. Yeah. And if you, whatever you consider it, and I still think they have one of the bigger followings. So, I mean, when you look at, the last 3.5 weeks have been the MLB playoffs, and everybody's watching the Cubs. And I literally mean everybody's watching the Cubs. So, and I guess it's to Darnell's point, there's more things to be interested in right now. TV's at a high point. I think, the things that have regular viewership are taking precedence over football. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily know that the NFL needs to change what they're doing in order to try and get fans back. I think those who are going to watch football are going to watch football, and those who are not watching football are not going to watch football no matter what you do. Now, I will say, though, with it being election time, that's just part of it, but that's once every 4 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there are a lot of factors, but I also think some of it is, maybe they're looking a little too into it, saying, all right, we're seeing a little bit of a dip. Now they're kind of freaking out. I mean, but I can also understand where they're coming from as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like let's not overdo it. It's still the number one sport in the United States. So I mean, it's not anything the NFL really needs to panic about. Their TV contracts may not end up being quite as lucrative. Mm-hmm. They're still making plenty of money. So I think it just may be one of those time frames where they got to accept that it's a different time frame. I mean, business is business. They're going to try and figure out ways to reach out and get fans back watching. But I mean, who knows? It also just may be one of those things where people are starting to realize how violent of a sport that it is too. I mean, there's already been reports and studies like telling parents not to let your kids play up until they get to a certain age. So, I mean, it may come to a point where just it may be starting now too that just the quality of play is going down. I mean, I can't remember too many other seasons where we've had so many games that were just kind of ugly games, like the 6-6 tie in overtime, like
rough.
in the NFL. Come on. So I mean, it's just it just might be these are the breaks for the NFL right now.
Yeah, and on top of that, I would even say some of the matchups are not even desirable. When you look at some of these Monday night games, like in reality, who really cares? Like, who's blocking time out of their day to watch Minnesota and Chicago?
Yeah.
I don't even care that Chicago won the game. I could have cared less about it. I proposed the idea, and I understand it's really tough with tickets and everything, but the NFL needs to find a way to make sure they're getting the optimal matchups in their primetime slots. Because I'm tired of a lot of the best games being 1:00 regional coverage. When they need to find a way to just and really get the teams people want to watch in prime time. And I don't care, we need to get every team a prime time slot. Like, nobody wants to watch Jacksonville on Monday Night Football. We all want to watch Patriots. We all want to watch Seattle. We all want to watch Arizona. Like, I don't care if I see Miami in prime time or not. I mean, I prefer not to because they're bad football. But it's the idea that the NFL tries to be fair with it. And I think if they're really worried about their ratings, they need to put the teams that people want to watch.
Well, and it may end up coming to that if they get desperate enough. Like, basically every night game will include either New England, Dallas, Oakland, San Francisco, or
New Orleans, the exciting teams, high offense.
Yeah. Or just huge markets that have just solid fan bases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never really been a huge NFL guy to just take time off on Sundays and just watch a bunch of games. I've always been a college football guy. I just love the hype, the atmosphere, and everything like that. Just like how the guys just hype up the games for college and everything. I just feel like I'm a part of it. Just don't want to miss out a game. And then like you said, Ty, like sometimes they'll have like the Dolphins or somebody on at prime time. It's like, I don't care about this team. So it's like, I really don't want to watch this. So yeah, me, I've always been a college football guy. Every week they're always hyping like the best game, check this out. And it's like, I don't feel like that's happening in the NFL with some of the games that they put on as prime time. So that's just for me.
Yeah, and I mean, that could have something to do with it too. I mean, college football is actually still doing fine.
Yeah.
But something I was just speaking to, colleges, they have their built-in fan bases because they have alumni and they have whatever their regional market is. I mean, like we talk about it on this show, like I went to Michigan State, so I mean, I'm going to watch any one of their games and the Big Ten for the most part, just because these are teams that I grew up with and I spent my college career watching these teams play my team. So that's something the NFL kind of doesn't have set, especially if your team is a traditional loser and you're in a state that's not very marketable. So like Cleveland Browns, they don't get much viewership and they're terrible. Cincinnati, they're good and they don't get much viewership. Jacksonville, who cares about Jacksonville? Yeah. So it's just some of those factors might just be coming into play with the NFL. We still like our football, but yeah, people seem to be trending more towards I'll watch the college game.
Well, and another thing, the college, I don't even know who's in charge of it, the schedule makers, I guess is what I'm going to call them. But one thing they do is it could be week 4 and there's still games with a to be determined time. Like Michigan, Ohio State time, which called a noon game, was decided like 2 weeks ago. So I'm looking at the NFL and it's like, okay, why don't you make your Monday night, Sunday night, and Thursday night matchups till like week 4, and then figure out, all right, who's got the good records? Let's put them prime time, because people will watch 2 4-0 teams squaring off as opposed to a 1-3 team versus a 2-2 team.
Yeah. They do. The NFL does do it with Sunday night games. It's just the Thursday and Mondays are predetermined.
Okay. Well, so granted, I'm okay with the Thursday night kind of being a crapshoot. I'm okay with that because in reality it's Thursday night football. It's not real traditional. It's an opportunity for teams to get national coverage basically on a night that nobody really cares about football. So I'm okay with, like, tonight, Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. Like, I like watching Atlanta, but I don't really care about Tampa Bay at this point unless I, for some reason, have a fantasy football cheering interest. So I'm okay with Thursday night being whatever they want it to be. But, I want Monday Night Football to be a good matchup. I want to look forward to Monday Night Football. I want to look forward to Sunday Night Football. Granted, Sunday is like a full slate. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. But, why not say, okay, let's schedule till week 5 or 6, and then from there on we make our schedule. Like I said, I understand travel, I understand tickets, I do, but I almost feel like there has to be a better way to get better matchups in prime time.
Yes. All right, guys. I think we covered a lot on the ratings. You guys ready for the pick'ems?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Darnell, he's the top dog, 17 out of 34. I'm second, 16 out of 34. And Tyler is 15 out of 34 for the picks.
We're making up ground this week.
Yeah. All right, guys. Y'all know the deal. Who already goes first? Detroit versus Minnesota. Who you got?
We lost you.
Well, they say defense wins championships. Minnesota lost a heartbreaker last week to a really bad Chicago team. So I think they're gonna settle down. They're at home. I don't like picking against the Lions, but Matthew Stafford's having a good year. They move the ball really well, but I feel like this Minnesota defense is just a different animal. Even when they lose, they don't give up a lot of points. So I'm going to go Minnesota here. I have a hard time saying that because I feel like they really struggle to move the ball at times. And I don't think Detroit's defense is that bad. They just give up a lot of passing. They give up a lot of passing touchdowns. I just think they need to just get their stuff together and just play better, basically. But the thing is I don't think Minnesota has the passing options. Really, once they get in the red zone, it's Kyle Rudolph or nothing. But I think the defense will win the game for Minnesota. So I'll take Minnesota in a very low scoring game. I will take them 21-17.
I'm going with Minnesota as well. Just over the last couple years, it seems like they just play pretty well against Detroit defensively. I don't know what it is, but they seem to understand Detroit's offense pretty well. So I think they'll have that there. I'm interested to see how the Vikings offense looks because North Turner resigned this week.
Yeah, that was a shocking move too.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what comes out of that. Like, is there going to be a new wrinkle to the Minnesota offense? But I think they do enough to win. I think they can keep the score low enough, keep Stafford in check, see if they can run the ball a little bit. So I will take Minnesota as well. Close game though, 24-20.
All right, I'm just going to go with a team that I think is better, and that's going to be Minnesota, of course. Lions just keep letting me down whenever I pick them, so it's not a lot, but, they lose. So got to go with Minnesota. I think they're going to win 24-13.
Yeah, so we all have that moderate to low scoring game.
Yeah. Up next, Pittsburgh versus Baltimore Ravens. Who you guys got? Baltimore, they have a -2.5 lead for this spread.
Sorry, Trayon, I'm gonna pick against your birds.
All right.
I'm gonna go with the Steelers. I think they have more offensively, and they always play tough defense against the Ravens. This is a great matchup historically, but whether Big Ben's back or not, I don't think that's gonna really matter. I think Landry Jones, if it's his number that's called, and Antonio Brown, Darius Hayward-Bay, Sammy Coates, Jesse James, Le'Veon Bell. I just think that's enough offensively to win this game. I just don't see enough points coming out of Baltimore. I mean, Justin Tucker may make a lot of field goals, but they need Flacco to be throwing touchdowns. They need Terrence West to be running for touchdowns. I don't think they get enough of that consistently. So I'm gonna go Pittsburgh here, 30-17.
All right.
I'm going with Pittsburgh as well. I'm not quite as confident as you, though, Ty. I'm expecting Big Ben to be back in the lineup. That will make me feel a little bit better if I see him under center. Landry Jones is serviceable for the Steelers, but it's a different animal when Roethlisberger's there. But yeah, I expect the Steelers to win. I just think they have a little bit more firepower on offense. Even if Big Ben's not there, give me Le'Veon Bell over Terrence West and give me Antonio Brown over Mike Wallace. So I will go with the Steelers as well. Another close game because these are two teams that don't like to lose to each other. They play each other tight. So I will go with the Steelers 28-21.
All right, I'm going to go with my Ravens on this one. One of my favorite rivalries in sports. Crazy stuff always happens when these guys play. Just think Baltimore being at home, I think they're just going to find a way to win somehow, some way, even though I believe Pittsburgh is a better team. So got this one being a little bit closer to you guys. I'm feeling a Baltimore win by field goal on the last play of the game. So I think they're going to win 20-17.
It'll have to be that low scoring for Baltimore to win, though. I'll agree there.
Yeah. Up next, we have Denver versus Oakland. Oakland, they have a -1.5 lead for the spread. Who you guys got?
Yeah, I can't give my defense pitch and then pick against Denver. Yeah. Coming off a great defensive performance last week. I'm gonna go with them. Offensively, they're still gonna have to have a pretty good game. They struggle at times. Devontae Booker seems to step in for C.J. Anderson, no problem. Just that passing game still, I feel needs to get a little more consistent. Simeon really has to kind of focus in and find Demarius Thomas, find Emmanuel Sanders, because they're both big weapons. If he can find them, I don't see them having too much trouble. It's gonna fall on that defense though. Can they slow down Derek Carr? Can they not give up garbage time points to him and have him get it really close at the end if they're ahead? The only thing I think that's going to be key for Denver is they can't fall behind, because I don't think Trevor Simeon's the kind of quarterback that can lead a charge. He's not like a Matthew Stafford or a Matt Ryan or Ben Roethlisberger, where he just has a really big arm and can get a team back in it in a matter of a couple of minutes. So I think the defense for Denver's going to have to be in check, but I'm going to take the Broncos by a score of 27-21.
I think this is a close game. Having a hard time picking on these ones. I mean, Oakland, they were a team I said to watch out for at the beginning of the year as a dark horse, and they're so far proving me right, 6-2. But they don't seem to be very good at home. So they're 1-2 at home.
They're better. I was gonna say they're better on the road. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they're playing a nasty defense. Derek Carr likes slinging around. I wish Oakland had a better running attack. I would feel comfortable picking them then. But because of that, that's where I'm going with Denver. That defense is going to be a little bit too much for them. Oakland's not going to be able to run the ball, and Denver's not going to have to keep linebackers up to stuff the run. So I think they'll be able to focus on stopping Derek Carr in that passing attack. And because of that, I think I'm going to have to roll with Denver. Still a close game, though. I got them winning 27-24.
Yeah, and my fantasy team would like a better Oakland running game, too.
I think everybody agrees on that one.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Denver as well. Just going to go with the team that has a better defense on this one. Oakland, they have a very dangerous wide-out court that Carr can pass to. But I do think Denver's going to find a way to get pressure on him and stop that passing game and help win the game. Do have this one being close, though. So I'm going to go with Denver 24-17. And last but not least, we have Philly versus the Giants. Giants, they have a -2.5 point lead for the spread. Who you guys got?
Well, is Odell Beckham Jr. going to show up, or is he going to not show up? I mean, I think that's kind of been the question all year for the Giants. And granted, a lot of that falls on Eli Manning as well, but it seems like when those two go, so do the Giants. So I think this is going to be a good game for them. I think they're going to step up in a divisional game. All of these ones count. So I'll take Philly's in a slump too right now. I think Carson Wentz is kind of. I'm not going to say he's gotten worse by any means. I mean, guy's a rookie still. I mean, you can't put the weight of a franchise on a rookie quarterback yet. So unless your name's Dak Prescott. But so give me the Giants. I'll take them by a couple of possessions. I think a touchdown and a field goal. I'll take them 31-21.
All right.
Yeah, it seems like Philly is starting to kind of fall off a cliff after their hot start. I think there's been enough tape now on the Eagles where people are starting to figure out their game planning. Carson Wentz he's been a very good rookie. He's having a good year, but I think got a little bit exposed against Dallas that he does not throw the ball downfield.
Credit it all to Dallas.
Yeah, of course. I got to give him some credit here. But it seems like majority of when passing attempts are like 5 to 10 yards. He doesn't like throwing beyond the sticks, and if they can't figure out how to push some defenses back, the rest of the year is going to be rough for them, and they won't be above 500 for much longer. And this game is just not a good matchup for them because the Giants, they still have really solid pass rush, and if your quarterback's not able to take pressure off by making people pay with some hot reads and hurting you downfield a little bit with that one-on-one coverage, it's going to get ugly. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Giants for this one, too. They're only favored by 3. I take them for a little bit more here, too, 27-20.
Did you basically just call Carson Wentz Alex Smith 2.0?
It's looking like he might be. A lot of checkdowns.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Philly in this one. Just no particular reason. Sometimes you got to trust your gut. So I'm going to go with my gut on.
Catch up.
That could be the reason too, man. So yeah, I'm just going to go with Philly, man. I think, somehow, some way they're going to get the job done. So got them winning a close one, 20-17. Put that down. And all right, guys, I know you have something to say, Tyler, but any other closing statements?
Talk about baseball, Ty.
Yeah, I
Boring
mean,
ass
I
sport.
think it at least deserves to be mentioned. 108 years, cursed franchise, no more. I think whether you like baseball or not, you like the Cubs or not, it's a great story. I've said it before. If I felt if the Cubs were to win the World Series, it would be the sports story of probably the century. The next foreseeable, however long it may be. It's just a feel good story. I mean, I don't think there's really any other way to word it. It's, the improbable happened. Everybody votes against it every year, and it finally happened. The Cubs winning the World Series is just, it's historic. It was honestly a fantastic run. They had a great regular season. You kind of saw this coming last year. They made it to the National League Championship Series before they lost to the Mets. So, they were setting themselves up for this moment. Theo Epstein has kind of proved to be a baseball god and a curse breaker. Did it with the Red Sox, now with the Cubs. But, I think that, this team deserved it. They would have been one of the better teams that didn't win it if the Indians were to win. But, I'm happy for the Cubs. I'm happy for their fans, not for the bandwagoners, but for the real fans. Just the idea that, things like this give a lot of other franchises hope. Being a Lions fan, it makes me think the Lions can win it. I'm sure, other franchises think, hey, if the Cubs can win it, why can't we? So, this is a great story for sports. It's something people talk about for a very long time. Game 7 was epic. It had absolutely everything. It had it had a rain delay. It had, home runs. It had late inning heroics. Good pitching when there needed to be, good fielding. It had a little bit of everything, and it was very enjoyable to watch. It was a great series. Nothing beats Game 7. Nothing beats extra innings or overtime in a Game 7. So really, it was very enjoyable to watch. That's coming from someone who thinks the baseball season's way too long. You get tired of it. It becomes old. But, this series kept it very interesting, kept it very enjoyable. Heck of a Game 7, heck of a series. Both teams played great. But history was made, and the Cubs are no longer the lovable losers.
Yep, they are lovable champions now. And, everybody's, like I said, outside of Cleveland, and 1/3 of our trio. Everybody's basically a Cubs fan last night, hoping for the curse to be broken, and it was. So, Bartman can come outside again and not worry for his life. And then what's the goat or something like that?
Yeah.
The Billy Goat.
Yeah, the Billy Goat can be put to rest. So the Cubs curse is broken. I'm happy for them. Big win. A little bit of irony if you put it with the NBA season. Cubs, the Cavs come back from a 3-1, and the Indians give up a 3-1. It's kind of interesting there, just looking at it from that perspective. Great series, great playoffs, actually, especially on the Cubs side. They seem to have to come back from some type of deficit each round, it felt like. It was an awesome chess match, too, for Game 7. Especially the pitching changes and whatnot. And then, like Ty said, there was a little bit of everything. Late home run from Rajai Davis, former Tiger, to put it to extra innings. You got a rain delay. Full disclosure, that's when I went to bed. Just said I'll catch up on it tomorrow. Great game. People are already calling it one of the all-time great Game 7s of a World Series ever.
Yeah, I don't really got much to say. Cleveland let me down, but yeah,
Of course
Chicago, they did their thing, man. So got to give them a congrats. They did their thing for sure. But man, Cleveland, they let me down for sure because I did not want to see Chicago win. But got to call a spade, man. They won. So congrats to the city of Chicago for sure. All right, guys. Anything else?
No.
All right. As always, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning into the show. Like I said, plenty of times, you can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Play, podcast.com, at a lot of places. So, feel free to subscribe and, also check us out on Twitter, at DKM_cast. So, be good to interact with you guys and everything, but appreciate you guys as always.